Good afternoon, friends. This is Cody with Reader Asset Management, and just want to do a quick video today to address some of you that have reached out to us with interest in selling your property. Just wanted to kind of have this discussion with you and how that impacts the property management, the tenants, the overall sale. And so to start off, as we go into spring every year, we have a handful of owners that reach out to us showing interest in selling. And in the past, we've referred them out to different agents, or they brought their own agents. And we end up running into a lot of different problems when we're dealing with an agent who's not familiar with our process, with the tenants, with move outs, and some of the other things that I want to talk about today. So to kick things off, I'm going to introduce you, if you haven't already met, Steve Sanders. He's my business development manager for Reader Asset Management. He also holds a real estate license. He's steeped in properties for investors and knows all about that. But there's a lot of other value that he's going to bring to the table. So I'm going to introduce him and just kind of do a little Q&A with him. So Steve, first off, I guess, as if there is somebody out there that's interested in selling their investment property, based off your experience from the past couple of years, some of the successes and the challenges that you've had, what would you say that an investor owner that is interested in selling would need to know?
Yeah, Cody, there's definitely a few things that I would want all owners to know prior to selling their property. And, the first thing that I always tell owners is we need to know where your tenant situation is at. So we need to take a look at the lease to see, if we have tenants in there, what sort of a game plan that we need to work on as far as when that move out date is going to be, letting the tenants know that, there isn't going to be a renewal that's going to happen. And then get eyes on the property, doing a market analysis to see what your property is worth, whether it be from an investment standpoint or whether it be from, an owner occupied standpoint. We really need to get eyes on the property to see the true condition of it rather than looking at, pictures that were from a year ago or even 6 months ago for that fact. And then the other thing that we have ran into with, owners using other agents is they're not really familiar with the 1031 exchange process. And so we've had owners, we had one owner last year that got to like 2 days before his settlement deadline and just then realized that he had to pay capital gains tax and depreciation recapture. And he called us kind of in a panic saying, hey, is there any way I can back out of this? And anyone who's done real estate can kind of understand that if you're on the selling side of things, once you're under contract, it becomes very difficult, if not impossible, to back out of that. The buyer really holds all the power. And so just getting re-familiar with the property, and then understanding your 1031 timelines. And if you're not going to 1031 it, really what you're going to end up paying in the capital gains tax and the depreciation recapture. So those are the two main things that I would say.
Okay, thank you, Steve. That's great. And as it relates to the 1031, we are not accountants, but we have seen firsthand how it does impact the sale. So reach out to us. We can at least start that conversation and point you in the right direction. But ultimately, you're definitely going to want to get with an accountant to go over that and just see how that sale impacts you. So my next question, Steve, is it seems like every time an owner is interested in selling that conversation always starts in February and March. Maybe speak to us why that always seems to come up now versus any other time during the year.
Yeah, it's really popular, obviously, in Utah when it comes to just the weather. Property is going to look better in the spring. There is more buyers in the spring because, you have, and it's kind of a perpetual effect that you have people obviously selling their property will immediately turn into buyers for another property, obviously. But I feel like the bigger reason this year is just due to the fact that we have climbing interest rates. And because of those climbing interest rates, I think people are a little worried that it's going to kind of turn the tide a little bit from a seller's market more to a buyer's market. And if that's the case, if you had any interest in selling, let's say it's going to be in August of this year or something like that, because, obviously spring through fall is a very popular time to sell. So if you're more looking to sell in like the fall time, it might be better to have that conversation with us now to see what we might might be able to do with the tenants if they have a lease through the end of the fall time. We're dealing with a few owners currently where they're experiencing this exact same thing. The leases don't end until the end of August, and so we're having to go through with these tenants to kind of follow a timeline with them, like, hey, the owner is interested in selling, which obviously isn't going to be a surprise to many tenants. Everyone kind of understands the market and where it sits right now, but then starting those conversations with that tenant. And by using us, we already have sort of an in with that tenant. They trust us because we are, the property management company that they've been dealing with. But then really going through a timeline for them of, hey, this is, we don't want to kick you out by any stretch. However, if you did have interest in moving out, some people you'd be surprised when we talk to them, they'll say, actually, I would love to break my lease. I just didn't know that that was an option. So sort of coming to a mutual agreement. Now, if they say, you know what, I'd rather just stay in the property, there's obviously like a keys for cash scenario that we could talk to them about of buying out their lease or something like that. But I think what you'd stand to gain on before interest rates keep moving higher versus what you'd actually pay out in buying out their lease is definitely worth it if you're thinking of selling. Now, I don't want to talk anybody into selling. We are buy and hold investors. That's what I am. That's what Cody is. And so, I don't want you to use this as a reason to sell if you weren't thinking about it. But if you have been interested and you've been thinking about selling your property this year, I think that those are a few reasons to reach out now as opposed to later.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I imagine that you've been able to help people that not only are selling and just taking advantage of these great values and this appreciation that this good run of appreciation that we've had over the last couple of years, but I imagine that there's a whole nother conversation about selling to upgrade or to buy into maybe a larger community or a larger place or a larger, like a multifamily. I presume that you would be able to help them with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that kind of goes back to the 1031 exchange and how familiar we are with it. I've been able to help several REITer clients that have wanted to take advantage of these, high real estate prices and, and reinvest it somewhere else, whether that be that you're there's this whole idea of, return on your investment as far as the equity is concerned in your property. And so if you've built up a ton of equity, let's say you've been owning your home or this investment property for 10 years, it could be worth having a conversation of selling that and moving that into something that's going to get you a much higher return, whether that be through the appreciation, cash flow, depreciation, or just the equity buy down that you're going to experience with owning a larger size property in more units. But there is a benefit of using us on the buying side as well. I mean, I probably don't have to speak much to our experience. We have a lot of experience, not only in the Northern Utah market, but the real estate market. And so rather than dealing with somebody completely different that might not understand your overall goal, might not understand the 1031 timeline, and might not understand, how to maximize the value and maximize your return on your investment and your cash invested. And so we know the rents extremely well. We obviously have the property managers at our disposal that have years and years of experience to know where rents need to be. It's probably not something that you guys haven't heard before, where you're looking at a multifamily unit that they claim that it can rent for, astronomical amounts of money, and that's just not the case. So we don't want you to get into a bad investment and then 2 years down the line looking to sell because the numbers weren't what they said it was going to be. So, I would say that not only knowing that 1031 timeline, knowing really how to maximize the equity that you have in your current property, but then just knowing the market and knowing the rents, I think are the three main key things to look at moving forward, and really a reason why to use us not only to sell but to buy your next property as well.
Excellent. Okay. So it's been interesting from where I sit. I've had a lot of owners reach out that sold in 2020 and 2021 and reached out they were very complimentary of what you had done, the expertise you brought to the transaction, and our property managers as well. So grateful that it was that you were able to help the seller because it just facilitated the entire process for all parties involved. But many of those owners also expressed a great appreciation for the fact that you had discounted the commission based off being a client of ours. And so maybe if you could kind of speak to that for a minute.
Absolutely, Cody. We've been able to help a lot of clients save a lot of money, and every dollar that you save on real estate, listing fees is going to be an extra dollar that you can put towards your next property. And it's really more about, helping this relationship come full circle. We never like to see owners leave, and that has nothing to do with, property management fees. It's just the relationship that we've built. We love every single one of you guys, and we appreciate your business more than you'll ever know. Without your business, we wouldn't really have, we wouldn't have a company. And so we want to make that relationship come full circle by extending kind of an olive branch and a discount. But with that being said, I've had a lot of owners that say it's more than the money. And having us be really involved in this process and knowing the move out process and, knowing the tenants and knowing the home inside and out, bringing in an outside real estate agent. And I don't want to say anything bad about any real estate agent. I think that, there are some really great real estate agents out there, but the value of knowing our process means that you can be less involved on the back end. We've probably been managing this property for you for some time. And, a lot of our owners express how they love that they can just collect a check and it's something that they trust us and they know that they don't have to worry about it. And this doesn't have to be any different. Knowing the vendors very well, knowing the move out process, knowing the tenants, and knowing the property inside and out, and maximizing your value on the back end. But as far as the listing fee, the traditional rate is 6%, 3% to the listing agent, 3% to the buyer's agent. What we've been doing for a lot of owners is we do it for 4.5%. So obviously saving you 1.5%. But to even dilute it down a little farther than that to help you understand, the only reason why we're really doing it at 4.5% is because I don't want to give buyers agents a reason not to show your property to their client. And so I really don't want to push the buyer's agent commission lower than 2.5%, but ultimately that's up to you. So we can do it as low as 4%. Cody and I are only going to take 2% to help cover, listing costs and the work put in and things like that. But if you are comfortable with giving the buyer's agent only 2% and you think that that's enough, we can do it at a flat 4% rate as well. But really, it's about bringing this relationship full circle, like I've been mentioning, making sure that you can maximize your profits by 1031ing as much as you possibly can into the next transaction. Or if you're not 1031ing it, putting a little bit more in your bank account is never a bad thing. So, I hope that answers your question.
Well, very good. This is super informative. And I guess just to kind of summarize this video is what, by listing their property through you, not only your ties to the property managers that have been managing the property, that are very intimately familiar with not only the property but the tenants also. It seems to me like everybody just benefits all the way around, from from you, the seller, the buyers, any vendors that are involved. Anytime we have a tenant move out, we go through a process. We actually had an example of one owner that got a little ahead of the process, and because we weren't able to get in and do those inspections, the security deposit got called into question and created a very clunky situation. And so it's the vendors that we use. It's the outreach to the tenants that because as you mentioned earlier, we're just so intimately familiar with the tenants and those relationships. And then not to mention the reduced cost to you, the owner. So in summary, maybe if you can just tell us how to get a hold of you, and I will also include your information in this video down below.
Yeah, you can get a hold of me through my cell phone. My cell phone number is 435-994-4313. That is my personal cell. You can shoot me a text. You can also email me at steve.sanders@readerproperties.com. But really, I know that you guys don't know me extremely well, as especially not as well as you know Cody and his expertise. But what we will include in this email that we're sending out with this video included is just some examples of some of the properties that we've been able to sell for our owners in past years. And you can see that the process and the results speaks for themselves, you know, between the days on market being very, very low, between, I don't think we've had a single home yet that hasn't sold for over asking price. And I know a lot of that has to do with the market as well. But then a lot of it has to do with our process. You know, I'm very familiar with the Northern Utah real estate market all around, whether it be investing properties for multifamily, whether it be single family homes. But I would encourage you to reach out and start the conversation. If you're thinking about selling, you know, I'm not going to pressure you into anything. I'm not going to pressure you in any way, shape, or form. Really, I just want to give you the information to help you as an owner make an educated decision on what's best for you and your family's future. So.
Okay, thank you, Steve, and thank you to all of you for watching. Have a great day.